The gun pressed cold against Eleanor Bennett's temple at 3:47 in the morning. "Tell me where the vault is, old woman, or I'll scatter your brains across this kitchen floor." Victor Drake's voice carried the same polished cruelty his grandfather had perfected 60 years ago. The same voice that had ordered Catherine Price's murder. The same bloodline that had stolen fortunes, destroyed families, and buried the truth beneath decades of Labia's lies. Eleanor, 82 years old, looked up at the man who had terrorized this town for 30 years, and she smiled. "You're too late, Victor. He's already here, William's grandson, and he's going to destroy everything your family built on blood and bones." But how did a homeless Marine and his 9-year-old daughter end up inheriting a mansion nobody wanted? How did they discover the $200 million secret that the Drake family had killed to protect? And what made Victor Drake desperate enough to hold a gun to an old woman's head in the middle of the night? Before we dive into this incredible story, drop a comment telling us what city you're watching from. We want to see how far this story travels. And make sure you subscribe and stay until the end, because what Marcus Cole found in that mansion will leave you speechless. Now, let's go back to where it all began. The fluorescent lights at the Washington VA hospital waiting room had been flickering for 3 hours. Marcus Cole counted each flicker the way he used to count seconds between mortar rounds in Kandahar. Old habits kept a man sane when everything else fell apart. His daughter Lily slept against his shoulder. 9 years old and already carrying weight no child should bear. Her blonde hair needed washing. Her clothes needed replacing. Her father needed a miracle. $47. That was the sum total of Marcus Cole's worldly wealth. 3 tours in Afghanistan, a Purple Heart, a shrapnel scar running from his left ear to his jaw, and $47 that wouldn't cover a week at the homeless shelter where they'd been staying. The nurse called another name. Not his. Never his. "Mr. Cole." Marcus looked up. The man approaching wasn't hospital staff. Gray suit, expensive shoes, the kind of discomfort that came from delivering news he didn't fully understand. "I'm Gerald Patterson, a state attorney from Richmond. I've been trying to reach you for 3 months. Marcus shifted Lily gently, keeping his body between her and this stranger. Afghanistan taught him that unexpected visitors rarely brought good news. "I've been moving around. What do you want?" "Your great-uncle William Ashford passed away 6 months ago. He left you his entire estate." Marcus stared. The words made no sense. Like hearing someone speak underwater. "I don't have a great-uncle." "You do, or rather you did. He left you Ashford Manor in Hartwell, Virginia. The property, the land, everything inside." "Why me? I never met him. Never heard his name in my life." Patterson pulled an envelope from his briefcase. "Mr. Ashford was specific in his instructions. He said you would understand when you arrived." The envelope contained a single photograph. A young black woman with eyes that seemed to hold entire universes. She was holding an infant, and even in the faded image, Marcus could see the fierce love in her expression. On the back, in careful handwriting, Catherine and James, 1962. The truth waits for those brave enough to find it. James, his father's name. His father who died when Marcus was 12. His father who never spoke about his childhood, never mentioned parents or grandparents, never explained where he came from. "There's something else," Patterson said carefully. "The house has been empty for 35 years. 3 families tried to live there after Mr. Ashford disappeared. None lasted 6 months. 1 man died under suspicious circumstances. The property has been on the market for 2 decades. No one will touch it." Lily stirred against Marcus's shoulder. "Daddy, what's happening?" He looked at his daughter, at the photograph, at the attorney who'd spent 3 months tracking down a homeless veteran. Why would someone leave a mansion to a person they never met? Patterson shook his head. "I don't know, Mr. Cole, but Mr. Ashford spent considerable resources ensuring this inheritance reached you specifically. Whatever his reasons, he believed you were the only one who could handle what's inside that house." Marcus looked at the photograph again. The woman's eyes seemed to stare directly at him across 60 years. "When can we see it?" The drive from Washington to Hartwell took 4 hours. Lily fell asleep 20 minutes in her sketchbook clutched against her chest. Marcus drove with one hand on the wheel, the other holding the photograph he couldn't stop examining. His phone rang. Rodriguez, his brother from the 2nd Battalion. "Cole, you're alive. We were starting to worry." "Barely. Listen, I need you to look something up. William Ashford, Hartwell, Virginia. See what you can find." "This about that estate thing Patterson found you." Marcus nearly swerved off the road. "How do you know about Patterson?" "He contacted me 2 months ago trying to track you down. I didn't tell him where you were because I didn't know if it was legit, but I did some digging. William Ashford was real hermano, rich as hell back in the 60s, owned a shipping company. Then something happened around 1968. He lost everything, became a recluse, spent the next 50 years living alone in that mansion. What happened in 1968? That's the weird part. I couldn't find anything concrete, just rumors about a business partner named Drake who screwed him over, and something about a woman who died, a black woman. Car accident supposedly, but the case file is sealed. Marcus looked at the photograph again. Catherine, 1962. The truth waits. Rod, I need a favor, a big one. Name it. Start digging into the Drake family, everything you can find, and keep it quiet. You think this inheritance is connected to something dirty? I think someone left me a mansion that 3 families ran away from and 1 man died in. I think my father never knew where he came from, and I think there's a reason William Ashford waited until he was dead to find me. Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. You need backup. Not yet, but stay close. Semper Fi, brother. Semper Fi. Hartwell appeared around a bend in the highway like something time had forgotten. Population 3847 according to the faded welcome sign. Main Street held the bones of prosperity now hollowed out by decades of decline. Half the storefronts were empty. The faces that turned toward Marcus's unfamiliar car were tired and suspicious. He pulled into Benson's general store for directions. The bell above the door announced their arrival like a warning. The man behind the counter was in his 60s. White beard, American flag pin. His expression hardened the moment he saw Marcus. Help you? Looking for Ashford Manor. Can you point me in the right direction? The temperature in the store dropped. 2 elderly women examining canned goods stopped and stared. You're the one who inherited that place. Word travels fast. Small town. Why would someone like you inherit the Ashford property? Marcus felt Lily press closer to his leg. He kept his voice level. Someone like me, outsider, no connection to this town. William Ashford was my great-uncle. William Ashford didn't have family, died alone just like he lived. One of the elderly women approached. Mildred Hayes, her name tag read. Historical Society. Her eyes were sharp. The Ashford place is at the end of Magnolia Road. Take Main Street north, turn left at the old mill. Follow it until you think you've gone too far, then keep going. Thank you, ma'am. Don't thank me yet. That house has been nothing but heartbreak since Catherine Price died. Some places hold on to their pain. Marcus's heart stopped. Who was Catherine Price? The store went completely silent. Benson's hand moved beneath the counter. Mildred's expression flickered. Fear and something else. Guilt. Ask Eleanor Bennett. She lives in the cottage next to the manor. She's the only one left who knew them both. Magnolia Road was a tunnel of ancient oaks. Spanish moss hung from branches like ghosts frozen mid-movement. Lily woke as they turned onto the private drive. Daddy, are those the trees from my dreams? Marcus's hands tightened on the wheel. What dreams, baby girl? The ones where the lady sings to me. She's standing under big trees like these. She sings the song Mommy used to sing, about the mockingbird. Sarah, his wife, dead 2 years. She me from cancer that ate through their savings before it ate through her body. She used to sing that song every night, learned it from her grandmother who learned it from hers. When did these dreams start? Start, Lily. After Mommy went to heaven, the lady showed me a house. She said it was waiting for us. The manor appeared before Marcus could respond, and everything he thought he knew about this inheritance shattered. The house was massive, 3 stories of Victorian ambition reaching toward the sky, turrets and bay windows, a wraparound porch supported by carved columns. The architecture spoke of wealth and permanence and dreams built to last centuries. But 35 years of abandonment had taken their toll, windows shattered or boarded, the porch sagging dangerously, vines claiming entire walls, the front door hanging open like a mouth mid-scream. Lily pressed her face to the car window. It's the house from my drawings. Marcus looked at her sketchbook. She'd been drawing this house for months. The same turret, the same windows, the same distinctive pattern. Lily, honey, you've never seen this house before. The lady showed me, in my dreams. Before Marcus could process this, a voice called out from the neighboring cottage. You must be Marcus. You have his eyes. Eleanor Bennett was 82 years old, but moved like someone half her age. Silver hair pulled back tight, skin dark as rich earth, eyes that took Marcus's measure and found him acceptable. Whose eyes? Williams, though yours have seen more war. She looked at Lily. And you must be the child. Catherine said you'd come. Ma'am Catherine Price died in 1968. How could she say anything? Eleanor smiled, and there was something knowing in it. Come inside, both of you. You'll need food before you face that house, and you'll need to understand what you're walking into. The cottage was warm and cluttered with books and photographs. Marcus noticed immediately that many featured the same woman from his photograph, Catherine Price. In some she was laughing, in others she looked directly at the camera with an intensity that made his breath catch. Eleanor served pot roast collard greens and cornbread. Lily ate like she hadn't seen real food in weeks. She hadn't. You knew her, Marcus said. Catherine. I loved her. She was my best friend from the time we were 5 until the night she died. Eleanor's voice caught. I was supposed to be with her that night. If I had been... What happened to her? What happened to a lot of black women in Virginia in 1968 who dared to love outside the lines someone drew for them? She was murdered. Made to look like an accident. Everyone knew. No one could prove it. Who killed her? Harrison Drake, William's business partner. They owned a shipping company together. Made millions. But when Harrison discovered that William and Catherine were lovers, that they had a child, Eleanor stopped, looked at Marcus with an intensity that made his spine straighten. Your father was that child. James, born in the manor in 1962. Hidden because a white man loving a black woman was scandal enough, but a child was unforgivable. Harrison used the secret as blackmail. Stole the company piece by piece, and when Catherine threatened to expose everything, he killed her. Made it look like she drove off a bridge. Her car was found in the river 3 days later. Harrison attended her funeral. Comforted William publicly. Threatened him privately. Marcus felt the world tilt. His father, the man who never spoke about his past, who worked 3 jobs and died of a heart attack at 47, who never knew he was born of love, so powerful people died to protect it. So William just let them get away with it. Eleanor smiled, and there was something fierce in it. William spent the next 35 years building a case, collecting evidence, accumulating a secret fortune completely separate from anything the Drakes could touch, and waiting for the right person to finish what he started. Why me? Because he watched you, Marcus. Every report card, every military achievement. When you received the Purple Heart, he cried for 3 days. When you married Sarah, he was in the back of the church. When she died, when you lost everything, her voice broke. He knew then that the time was coming. He wrote to me, the boy has been forged in fire. He's ready. Marcus looked at Lily, who had fallen asleep against a cat on the couch. His daughter, his responsibility, his entire world. What did he leave me, Eleanor? What's in that house? The truth, evidence to destroy the Drake family, and enough wealth to give you and that little girl the life you deserve, if you're brave enough to find it. The first night in Ashford Manor nearly broke him. Marcus cleared a path through debris to the 2nd floor, checked each step for rot, found 2 bedrooms with intact windows and minimal water damage, set up their sleeping bags on dusty mattresses, hung flashlights from the ceiling like lanterns. It's like camping, Lily said, finding adventure in their circumstances. But inside. Best camping ever. After she fell asleep, Marcus walked the house. His construction experience from before the military cataloged damage automatically. Foundation solid, electrical dangerous, plumbing corroded, roof damaged but salvageable. Windows would cost a fortune. In the library, his flashlight caught something wrong, a wood panel that didn't match the others. He ran his fingers along the edge, found a hidden compartment. Inside, a leather journal, an antique compass with strange markings, a photograph of Catherine in this exact room, her hand resting on this exact shelf. The journal's first entry was dated January 1989. If you're reading this, you've passed the first test. You looked deeper than surface appearances. This is what they fear most. The compass doesn't point north. It points toward truth. Follow where it leads. But know this, the path requires 2 hearts working together. A man alone might seek fortune from greed, but a parent fighting for their child. That's love. That's what Catherine and I had. That's what the Drakes could never understand or destroy. Marcus held the compass. Its needle swung decisively toward the east wing of the house. The next morning, Eleanor arrived with breakfast and warnings. Victor Drake knows you're here. He'll come soon. Lawyers first. That's how he operates. Tell me about Victor. Harvard Law. Inherited his grandfather's company, though most of the fortune is gone. Spent on legal fees and covering crimes. but Victor has one obsession: finding William's hidden assets. Why does he think he's entitled to anything? Because Harrison told his son, and his son told Victor that William stole from them. They've believed their own lies so long they've become truth in their minds. Victor genuinely thinks he's the victim. Lily ran in from the garden, hands muddy, clutching something metal. "Daddy, look!" A small box buried near the magnolia tree. Inside was a child's bracelet with initials JP, James Price, Marcus's father, and another photograph. William and Catherine together, openly affectionate with a toddler between them. On the back, "Our family, May 1964. Hidden but never ashamed." Marcus stared at his father's childhood face, a face he'd only seen in adult photographs. "They stole his history," he said quietly. "They took everything, his inheritance, his identity, his parents, replaced it all with lies." Harrison couldn't kill the child without raising suspicion, so he did something worse. He made sure James would never know who he really was. Marcus thought of his father, working himself to death, never knowing he was heir to a fortune, never knowing his real parents loved him enough to die protecting him. That's a kind of murder too, killing someone's truth. The confrontation came 3 days later. Marcus was on the roof replacing shingles when a black Mercedes rolled up the drive. The man who emerged wore a suit worth more than Marcus's car. His smile was predator perfect. "Mr. Cole, welcome to Hartwell. I'm Victor Drake. My family and the Ashfords go way back." Marcus climbed down slowly. Let Drake wait. "I know who you are." "Then you know I'm here to help. This property is a money pit. Restoration will cost $400,000 minimum. I'm prepared to offer $500,000 cash. You could start over without the burden." Marcus looked at the manor, its damaged beauty, its stubborn survival, the history hidden in its bones. "My daughter loves this house. We're staying. Mr. Cole, Sergeant Cole, or Marcus, we're not friends." Victor's mask slipped, cold fury underneath. "Your great-uncle was not a well man, paranoid, obsessive. Whatever he told you about my family is the delusion of a bitter old man. He didn't tell me anything. He died before I could meet him. Perhaps he chose to die rather than face you. Perhaps what he did to your family was shame." Marcus stepped forward, 6 inches taller, broader, carrying the quiet menace of someone who'd ended threats permanently. "I think you should leave. This isn't over, Sergeant." "No, it's not." The harassment started within a week. Building inspector, 16 critical violations, 47,000 in fines. Environmental agency, soil contamination complaint, 12,000 in testing. Historical preservation motion, 18 months of renovation delays. Then his tires were slashed. Then someone broke into the manor at night. Every room searched. Nothing taken. Then Marcus came home from a job interview to find Lily's bedroom destroyed. Her drawings scattered, her clothes thrown everywhere. Her mother's photograph cracked but clutched in her small hands because she'd grabbed it before hiding in the closet for 3 hours. That night, Marcus called Rodriguez. "I need backup. Can you get Chen and Williams?" "What's the situation?" Marcus explained everything. The inheritance, Catherine's murder, the Drake vendetta, the escalating threats against his daughter. "We're on our way, 48 hours. "Rod, this isn't a military operation." "I can't ask." "You're not asking, we're coming. That's what brothers do. Semper Fi." Semper Fi? While waiting for reinforcements, Marcus and Lily continued following the compass. The east wing had been sealed for decades. The door was locked with a mechanism that required the compass itself as a key. The lock clicked. The door swung open. Inside was a room frozen in 1968, Catherine's room. Her dresses still hung in the closet, her makeup on the vanity, a half-written letter on the desk. "My dearest William, by the time you read this, I will have told Harrison the truth. I cannot live in shadows anymore. Our son deserves to know his father. I know the risks. Harrison is dangerous. But I believe truth is stronger than fear. I believe love declared openly is more powerful than any weapon. If something happens to me, promise you will protect our boy. Promise you will tell him when he's ready that his mother loved him enough to die for his right to know who he is. Forever yours, Catherine." The letter was never finished. That night she drove to meet Harrison. She never arrived. But Catherine had prepared for betrayal. Hidden in the vanity's false bottom was a safe deposit box key and a note Hartwell Savings and Trust. Box 247, for James when he's ready. The bank still stood absorbed by a larger chain. The manager, Patricia Holloway, examined Marcus's documentation skeptically. This box has been here 56 years. We've tried to contact the account holder. She was murdered in 1968. I'm her grandson." Holloway's expression changed. She returned with a metal box heavier than expected. Inside, $10,000 in 1968 cash. A life insurance policy naming James Price as beneficiary never claimed. A journal documenting Harrison Drake's crimes: embezzlement, bribery, fraud. And a microcassette tape labeled Harrison Drake Confession. January 3rd, 1968. "Daddy, what's that shiny thing?" Marcus reached deeper. His fingers closed around cold metal. Catherine's engagement ring. Simple diamond on a gold band. In William's handwriting. She never got to wear this in public. I bought it the day before she died. I was going to ask her to marry me to damn the consequences. Give it to someone who understands that real love is worth dying for. The veterans arrived 2 days later. Carlos Rodriguez, communications specialist, still had Pentagon contacts. Michael Chen, combat medic, now ran a security firm. Derek Williams, explosives expert. Currently worked construction. They assessed the manor with professional efficiency. "Perimeter's compromised," Chen reported. "Tire tracks in the woods, cigarette butts at observation points. Someone's been watching for weeks." "Entry points are multiple," Williams added, "but this place is solid. We can secure the ground floor." "And I've been digging," Rodriguez said. "Victor Drake isn't just harassing you. He's done this to property owners across 3 states. Same pattern every time. Legal pressure, bureaucratic nightmares, escalating intimidation. He's stolen millions this way." "Can we prove it?" "We can now. I've got a friend at FBI who's very interested." That night, Eleanor joined them for dinner. 4 veterans protecting the house that held her best friend's memory. "Catherine would have loved you all," she said through tears. "She believed in warriors with hearts." After Lily went to bed, Eleanor revealed the final piece. "There's a vault beneath the manor. William spent 20 years building it. Everything he gathered to destroy the Drakes is inside, but it needs 2 people to open, a parent and child working together." "Why?" "Catherine died trying to protect their son. The vault opens only for someone willing to do the same, fighting for their child's future, not just their own gain." Marcus thought of every decision since Sarah died. Every sacrifice. Every sleepless night. Where is it? The compass knows, but the entrance only appears at midnight. William was theatrical. At 11:45 p.m., Marcus and Lily descended to the wine cellar. Rodriguez maintained overwatch. Chen monitored communications. Williams had rigged early warning throughout the property. At exactly midnight, the compass needle spun wildly, then pointed at the far wall. Certain bricks began to glow with faint phosphorescence. "Daddy, look at the pattern." 2 handprints in the glowing bricks, one large, one small. "We have to do it together," Lily whispered. Father and daughter pressed their hands to the wall simultaneously. Stone shifted. A section retracted, revealing stairs descending into darkness. The passage was wider than expected. Sconces ignited automatically as they passed. William's engineering genius at work decades before such technology was common. At the bottom, a vault door that would look at home in a bank. A control panel with 2 keyholes at different heights. Catherine's ring and the compass. They weren't just mementos, they were keys. Marcus inserted the ring. Lily inserted the compass. Together they turned. The vault door swung open, and Marcus's breath stopped. Floor-to-ceiling shelves held banker's boxes labeled with dates and cases. Filing cabinets contained decades of financial records. Photographs documented every Drake family crime, but the centerpiece was a table holding 3 items. A briefcase containing bearer bonds, gold coins, and cash totaling $150 million. A hard drive containing digitized evidence. A recorded confession from Harrison Drake himself. Marcus played the tape. Harrison's voice filled the vault. "You think anyone will believe you, William? A white man who betted a colored girl? I'm offering you a way out? Sign over your shares, disappear, and I'll make sure the boy is raised properly." William's voice broken but defiant. "And if I refuse, then I'll solve the problem permanently. That woman is a complication. Complications get removed. I've done it before. One more accident won't raise eyebrows." Marcus stopped the tape. Lily was crying silently. "She was brave, wasn't she, Daddy?" "The bravest. Are we brave?" Before Marcus could answer, Rodriguez's voice crackled through the radio. "Cole, we've got company. Multiple vehicles. 8 men, all armed." Marcus looked at his daughter, then at the evidence that could destroy the Drake family forever, then at the briefcase containing a fortune. "Lily, remember the emergency beacon Eleanor mentioned?" She nodded. "I need you to activate it while we handle the bad guys." "Yes, Daddy." That's my brave girl. Chen will escort you. I love you, Daddy. I love you more. Now go. Victor Drake entered the manor like a conqueror claiming territory. His men were professionals, but they weren't prepared for 4 combat veterans defending their home. The firefight was brief and decisive. Rodriguez took out 2 men with suppressive fire. Williams flanked and neutralized 3 more. Chen returned from escorting Lily to engage 2 breaching through the kitchen. Marcus himself disarmed Victor Drake in 6 seconds of controlled violence that left the lawyer on the floor with a broken nose and shattered illusions. Your grandfather was a murderer, Marcus said, standing over him. He killed Catherine Price because she threatened his empire of lies, and you've spent your life protecting those lies. You don't understand. My family built everything. Your family built nothing. They stole from William. They murdered Catherine. They erased my father's identity. It ends tonight. Sirens wailed in the distance. The emergency beacon had transmitted to FBI contacts Rodriguez established. Agent Maria Reyes entered with a tactical team. Victor Drake, you're under arrest for racketeering, conspiracy, and federal banking violations. Lily ran from her hiding spot into Marcus's arms. Over her head, he watched Victor Drake being led away in handcuffs. The last of a family that destroyed so much. Finally facing justice. Later that night, Marcus stood in the vault alone. The evidence surrounded him. The fortune waited. Catherine's ring rested in his palm. 60 years. William had waited 60 years. Marcus thought of his father, working himself to death, never knowing. He thought of Catherine, dying for the right to love openly. He thought of Lily, dreaming of a house she'd never seen, singing songs from a grandmother she'd never met. And he understood. This was never just about money. It was about truth. About justice delayed but never denied. About love that survived murder and lies and 60 years of waiting. William hadn't left him a fortune. He'd left him a mission. And Marcus Cole, homeless veteran, single father, great-grandson of a love story written in blood, was finally ready to complete it. The handcuffs clicked shut around Victor Drake's wrists at 4:17 in the morning, but Marcus knew this was far from over. He had seen the look in Drake's eyes as the FBI agents led him toward the waiting vehicles. Not defeat, not fear. Something far more dangerous. Calculation. Cole? Agent Reyes approached him while paramedics checked Lily for injuries she didn't have. We need to talk about what happens next. What happens next is I take my daughter to bed and figure out how to process the fact that my entire family history was a lie. I understand, but Victor Drake has resources. Connections. The men we arrested tonight are private contractors hired through shell companies. Even with the evidence in that vault building, a case that sticks will take time. How much time? Months, maybe longer. Marcus watched the taillights of the FBI vehicles disappear down Magnolia Road. Rodriguez joined him on the porch, coffee in hand, despite the hour. You should sleep, hermano. Can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see that photograph. My father as a baby, Catherine holding him like he was the most precious thing in the world. He was. That's why she died protecting him. And he never knew, lived his whole life not knowing. Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. What are you going to do with the money? Marcus hadn't thought about it. $150 million sat in a vault beneath his feet, and he hadn't considered what to do with it. The amount was abstract, meaningless compared to the weight of what he'd learned about his family. I don't know yet, but I know it's not really mine. The hell it isn't. William left it to you specifically. William left me the truth. The money is just evidence. Proof of what the Drakes stole. Eleanor appeared in the doorway, wrapped in a shawl, despite the warm night. You need to read the rest of William's journal. There's more he wanted you to know. The journal waited on the kitchen table where Marcus had left it hours ago. He opened it to where he'd stopped reading, and Eleanor sat across from him, while Lily finally slept upstairs under Chen's watchful protection. The entry was dated March 1992. I have made a decision that will haunt me for whatever years I have left. James has a son now, a boy named Marcus. I watched from a distance as they brought him home from the hospital. My great-grandson. Catherine's blood. And I cannot approach them. Harrison is dead, but his son Robert continues the surveillance. They are waiting for me to make contact, waiting for an excuse to destroy what remains of Catherine's legacy. So I must remain a ghost, loving from the shadows as I have done for 30 years. But I am building something. A case so complete, so devastating that when it finally emerges, no Drake will escape. Every dollar stolen, every bribe paid, every life destroyed. I am documenting it all, and I am building a fortune of my own. Legitimate investments, careful growth, separate from anything they can trace. When the time comes, Catherine's great-grandchild will have the resources to fight. I only pray I live long enough to see justice done." Marcus turned the page. The next entry was dated 15 years later. September 2007. Marcus Cole enlisted in the Marines today. I watched the ceremony from the back row. He looked so much like James at that age, but there's something of Catherine in his eyes. That fierce determination. That refusal to accept injustice. Robert Drake died last year. His son Victor has taken over the search for my hidden assets. He is more dangerous than his father or grandfather, more patient, more willing to wait. But so am I. The entries continued. William had documented every major event in Marcus's life. His deployments, his injuries, his marriage to Sarah. June 2019, Sarah Cole died this morning. The cancer took her quickly at the end. I wanted to reveal myself to offer Marcus the fortune that could have saved her. But the medical bills were already astronomical before I knew she was sick, and by the time I learned the truth, it was too late. Victor Drake is still watching. If I had approached Marcus, offered help, they would have known. They would have destroyed him before he was ready. I have failed Catherine's family again, but I swear on her grave that I will not fail the child. Lily will have everything I could not give her grandmother. Marcus closed the journal. His hands were shaking. He knew about Sarah. He could have helped, and he didn't. Eleanor reached across the table. He was protecting you. If Victor Drake had discovered your connection to William while Sarah was alive, while you were vulnerable, they would have taken everything. They would have done worse. The Drakes don't just take money, Marcus. They destroy people. Harrison destroyed Catherine. Robert destroyed 3 families who owned this house before you. Victor would have destroyed you, Sarah, and Lily without hesitation. Marcus thought about the timeline. Sarah's diagnosis, the endless medical bills, the bankruptcy, the foreclosure, the spiral that ended with him and Lily in a homeless shelter. If William had revealed himself, given us the money, Victor would have claimed it was stolen, would have tied it up in courts for years, would have investigated your background, found your connection to William, and used it to paint you as conspirators. By the time the legal battle ended, you would have been broken, and Sarah would still be gone. So he watched us suffer. He watched you survive. There's a difference. William believed that the fire you walked through would forge you into someone strong enough to finish what he started. He was right. At 6:30 that morning, the first reporters arrived. Someone had leaked the story. Within hours, news vans lined Magnolia Road. Cameras pointed at the manor. Journalists shouted questions at anyone who emerged. "Mr. Cole, is it true you found $200 million hidden in this house? Sergeant Cole, can you confirm that Victor Drake has been arrested for murder? Is the Drake family connected to organized crime?" Rodriguez handled the perimeter, while Marcus kept Lily inside. She was confused by the commotion, pressing her face to the window to watch the circus assembling on their lawn. "Daddy, why are all those people here?" "Because we found something important, baby girl. Something people have been looking for a long time." "The treasure." "Yes, but it's more than treasure. It's the truth about our family. About the lady who sings to me." Marcus knelt to her level. "Her name was Catherine. She was your great-great-grandmother, and she loved you very much, even though she never got to meet you. Lily considered this with the gravity only children possess. Is that why she shows me things in my dreams? What kind of things? The house, the trees, and a man with sad eyes who writes in a book. He watches you, Daddy. He watches you all the time." Marcus felt his throat tighten. William, even in death, somehow reaching through to guide them. He was my great-uncle. He left us this house because he wanted us to be safe. Are we safe now? Before Marcus could answer, his phone rang. Agent Reyes. "We have a problem. Victor Drake made bail." "How the charges?" "A judge in Richmond. Drake family connections go deep. He posted $10 million in bond and walked out an hour ago." "Where is he now?" "Unknown. His tracking ankle monitor shows him at his residence, but my gut says he's already running. I'm sending additional agents, but I need you to stay alert." Marcus hung up and found Rodriguez already mobilizing. "Heard the conversation. Chen's sweeping the perimeter. Williams is checking our early warning systems. What do you need?" "I need to get Lily somewhere safe." "Eleanor's cottage. Stone walls, good sight lines, and nobody knows we're using it as a secondary position." "Do it. I'll handle the reporters." Marcus stepped onto the porch and the questions exploded like gunfire. "Sergeant Cole, do you have a statement about Victor Drake's arrest? Is it true your family was connected to a murder cover-up in 1968? How much money did you actually find?" Marcus raised his hand. The crowd quieted. My name is Marcus Cole. 3 months ago, I was homeless. My daughter and I were living in a shelter in Washington, D.C. I served 3 tours in Afghanistan, received a Purple Heart, and came home to find that my country had no place for me. He paused, letting the words sink in. Then I learned that I had a great uncle I never knew existed. William Ashford. He left me this house and everything in it. What I found inside was not just money. It was the truth about my family. About a woman named Catherine Price, who was murdered in 1968 for the crime of loving a white man in the segregated South. About a child who was stolen and raised never knowing who his real parents were. About a family that spent 60 years hiding their crimes behind lawyers and money and power. The reporters were silent now, recording every word. Victor Drake's grandfather murdered my great-grandmother. His family stole my grandfather's inheritance, his identity, his history, and for 60 years they got away with it. But William Ashford never forgot. He spent his entire life building a case, collecting evidence, waiting for the right moment. Marcus looked directly into the nearest camera. I am that moment, and I am not going anywhere. The press conference footage went viral within hours. By noon, the story had reached national networks. By evening, it was international news. The homeless Marine who inherited a mansion and discovered a 60-year-old murder conspiracy. But with attention came danger. At 3:15 p.m., Williams found the first device. IED, crude but effective. Someone planted it near the gas line last night, probably during the firefight when we were distracted. Marcus felt ice in his veins. Can you disarm it? Already done, but this isn't the work of professionals, Cole. This is desperate. Someone who knows they're running out of options. Victor. Has to be. The contractors he hired were mercenaries, follow the money types. This is personal. Whoever planted this wanted to watch the house burn. Chen emerged from the East Wing with additional news. Found surveillance equipment in 3 rooms. High-end stuff, but old. Been here for years. The Drakes were watching William. And now they're watching you. I've disabled what I found, but there could be more. This house has a lot of walls. That night, Eleanor gathered them in her cottage for a council of war. Lily slept in the back bedroom while the adults planned. Victor won't stop, Eleanor said. I've known that family for 60 years. They don't accept defeat. They don't negotiate. They destroy anything that threatens them. The FBI is building a case, Marcus said. The evidence in the vault will take months to process. Victor knows that. He's betting that he can eliminate the threat before the legal system catches up. Rodriguez leaned forward. So we go on offense. We've got the evidence, we've got the money, we've got 4 Marines, and 1 very determined old lady. What do we know about Victor's vulnerabilities? Eleanor smiled grimly. More than he thinks. William didn't just document crimes, he documented secrets. Every affair, every bribe, every skeleton in every closet. The Drakes have enemies, Marcus. People who would love to see them fall. Who? Start with the families they destroyed. The Hendersons lost their farm in 1973 when Harrison Drake called in a loan early. The Washingtons were driven out of this very house in 1995 by the same harassment tactics Victor used on you. The Chens, she glanced at Michael. No relation. They owned a restaurant downtown until Robert Drake decided he wanted the property. You're talking about building an army. I'm talking about justice. William collected evidence for 60 years. He wasn't just building a legal case. He was building a coalition. People who would testify, people who would fight, people who have been waiting for someone to lead them. At 9 p.m., Marcus's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered anyway. Cole? Sergeant Cole? We haven't been properly introduced. Victor Drake's voice was calm, controlled, almost pleasant. I believe you have something that belongs to my family. I have evidence of your family's crimes. That's different. Evidence can be interpreted many ways. My grandfather was a businessman who made difficult decisions. Your great-uncle was a man who couldn't accept rejection. Catherine Price was a woman who made poor choices and paid the consequences. Marcus's grip tightened on the phone. Your grandfather murdered her. My grandfather protected his interests, as I'm protecting mine. I'm calling to offer you a deal, Sergeant. A reasonable one. I'm listening. Walk away. Take your daughter. Leave the house, the evidence, everything. I'll provide you with $5 million in cash, untraceable enough to start over anywhere in the world. You'll never hear from me again. And if I refuse, then I'll do what Drakes have always done. I'll destroy everything you love, starting with that little girl who sings songs about mockingbirds. The line went dead. Marcus stood frozen, the threat echoing in his mind. Rodriguez was at his side in seconds. What did he say? He knows about Lily, knows about the song Sarah used to sing. He's been listening. The surveillance equipment. For years. He's been listening for years. Marcus moved toward Eleanor's back bedroom where Lily slept. He needed to see her. Needed to confirm she was safe. But when he opened the door, the bed was empty. The window was open. And Lily was gone. The next 60 seconds were the longest of Marcus's life. He was through the window before rational thought could stop him scanning the darkness, his Marine training taking over as his heart screamed his daughter's name. Lily! Daddy, I'm up here. He looked up. Lily was perched on the cottage roof, wrapped in a blanket, pointing at the sky. The lady told me to watch the stars. She said the bad men are coming from the east, and you need to know. Marcus climbed to her, his terror converting to confusion, and then to something else entirely. What bad men, baby? The ones in the black cars. 3 of them. The lady showed me where they're hiding. Rodriguez appeared below them. Cole, we've got movement. Eastern perimeter. Chen just spotted 3 vehicles trying to approach through the back roads. Marcus looked at his daughter, 9 years old, seeing things she couldn't possibly know. How did you know, Lily? Catherine told me. She watches over us. She says the bad man on the phone is scared, and scared men do stupid things. They moved fast. Rodriguez coordinated with Chen and Williams while Marcus carried Lily to the manor's basement, the most defensible position they had. Stay here. Don't come out until I come for you. Daddy, Catherine says there's another way out. A tunnel. William built it in case the bad men ever came. Where? Lily pointed to a section of wall that looked identical to the rest. Behind the wine rack. Push the 3rd bottle from the left. Marcus didn't question. He pushed the bottle. A section of wall slid open, revealing a passage that led into darkness. It goes to the old church, Lily said. 2 miles through the woods. Catherine used to meet William there. It was their secret place. How do you know all this? She tells me things. At night when I sleep. She says I'm the only one who can hear her because I have her gift. Marcus didn't have time to process this. Above them, he heard the first shots. Stay in the tunnel. Follow it to the church. If I don't come for you in 1 hour, you run. Find Agent Reyes. Tell her everything. Don't die, Daddy. I won't. I promise. He sealed the wall behind her and moved toward the sound of combat. The firefight was different from the first one. Victor's men weren't trying to capture the house. They were trying to destroy it. Incendiary rounds, Molotov cocktails, anything that would burn. They're going for scorched earth, Williams shouted over the gunfire. They want to eliminate the evidence. The vault. Fireproof, but the house won't survive this. Marcus thought about Williams' journal, the photographs, Catherine's dresses still hanging in her room, 60 years of preserved memory about to become ash. Where's the main force? North side, 5 men, maybe 6. They've got us pinned. I'm going around. Marcus moved through the house he was just beginning to know, through the library where he'd found the first clue, through the dining room where Catherine and William must have shared meals in secret, through the kitchen where Eleanor had fed them their first real dinner in months. He found Victor Drake in the garden standing beneath the magnolia tree where Lily had discovered his father's bracelet. Drake held a gas can in one hand and a lighter in the other. This tree was here when Catherine died, Victor said without turning around. My grandfather told me the story. She used to sit beneath it reading, planning her betrayal. She was planning to tell the truth. Same thing to a Drake. Victor turned. His face was calm, almost peaceful. Do you know what it's like to grow up being told you're the victim, that everything your family built was stolen by ungrateful servants and race traders? I believed it, Sergeant. For 40 years, I believed every word. And now I've read the evidence in that vault. I've heard my grandfather's voice on that tape admitting to murder like he was ordering lunch. I know the truth. Then why are you still fighting? Because the truth doesn't matter. Power matters. Control matters. If your evidence becomes public, my family loses everything. Our businesses, our reputation, our place in society. I will not be the Drake who let that happen. You'll be the Drake who went to prison. I'll be the Drake who tried. Victor raised the lighter. This tree was Catherine's favorite spot. It seems fitting that it should be where the Ashford legacy ends. Marcus moved fast. The lighter flew from Victor's hand. The gas can spilled across the ground, but Marcus kicked it away before the flame could catch. Victor fought back with the desperation of a man who'd lost everything, but refused to admit it. He was strong, trained, probably had expensive martial arts instructors. But Marcus had Kandahar. The fight lasted 47 seconds. It ended with Victor face down in the dirt, Marcus's knee on his spine, hands zip-tied behind his back. "It's over, Drake." "It's never over. My lawyers will..." "Huh? Your lawyers can't help you. The FBI has your grandfather's confession. They have 50 years of financial records. They have testimony from every family you destroyed. And now they have you caught on camera trying to commit arson while out on bail for racketeering." Sirens approached. Lots of them this time. Agent Reyes arrived with a full tactical team. She took one look at Victor Drake in the dirt and allowed herself a small smile. "Bail revoked. Additional charges pending. I think we can safely say Mr. Drake won't be making any more late-night visits." As they led Victor away, he looked back at Marcus with something that might have been respect. "You know this isn't finished. My family has been destroying people for generations. You've won a battle. The war will continue long after we're both dead." "Maybe, but my daughter will know who she is. My father's grave will have his real name, and Catherine Price will finally get justice. That's enough." At 5:47 a.m., Marcus found Lily waiting at the old church, exactly where she'd said she'd be. She ran to him across the overgrown cemetery past headstones dating back 2 centuries, and he caught her in his arms like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. Because she was. "Is it over, Daddy?" "The bad men are gone. We're safe." "Catherine says we're not done yet. She says there's one more thing you need to find." "What thing?" Lily pointed at the church, at a stained glass window depicting a woman holding a child, light streaming through in colors that shouldn't be possible in the pre-dawn darkness. "She says the real treasure isn't in the vault. It's in there, and only you can find it." Marcus looked at the church, at the window, at his daughter who somehow knew things that defied explanation, and he understood that his journey wasn't over. It was just beginning. The church door groaned when Marcus pushed it open at 6:03 a.m. Dust swirled in the first light of dawn, filtering through broken windows. The building had been abandoned for decades, but something about it felt alive, waiting. Lily held his hand as they walked down the center aisle. Her grip was steady, unafraid. She had seen this place before in her dreams. "Where baby girl under the altar. Catherine says there's a box. William put it there the day she died." Marcus approached the raised platform where a simple wooden altar still stood. He knelt, running his hands along the floorboards until he felt one give slightly. Years of military training had taught him to find hidden things. This one wanted to be found. The board lifted easily. Beneath it was a metal box, rusted but intact. 60 years in the ground had not destroyed it. Inside was a letter, a single photograph, and a ring that Marcus recognized immediately because it matched the engagement ring in the vault. A wedding band. Catherine's wedding band. The letter was in William's handwriting, dated January 15th, 1968. 3 days before Catherine died. "My dearest Catherine, by the time you read this, we will be married. Not in law, not in the eyes of a society that condemns our love, but in the only way that matters. In the sight of God and each other. Father Morrison has agreed to perform the ceremony tonight in secret. He believes, as I do, that love sanctified by faith cannot be made sinful by the prejudices of men. I am leaving this letter here as a record of what we are about to do. If something happens to us, if the Drakes discover our plan, I want the truth to survive. We were married. Our son was born, legitimate in the eyes of God, and no amount of hatred can erase that. I love you. I have loved you since the moment I saw you in the library reaching for a book on the highest shelf. I will love you beyond death, beyond time, beyond all the barriers this broken world tries to place between us." Your husband, William Marcus, read the letter 3 times. Each reading revealed new meaning. Catherine and William hadn't just been lovers. They had been married. His father hadn't been illegitimate. The Drake family's entire narrative was built on a lie. "Daddy, look at the picture." The photograph showed Catherine and William standing before this very altar. She wore a simple white dress. He wore a dark suit. Between them stood a priest holding a Bible. All 3 were smiling. Behind them, barely visible in the shadows, was a young black woman who Marcus recognized from Eleanor's cottage. Eleanor. She had been there. She had witnessed the wedding. "She never told me." Eleanor's voice came from the church entrance. She walked slowly down the aisle, 60 years of hidden truth weighing on her shoulders. "I couldn't. William made me promise. He said the wedding certificate had to stay hidden until the right person found it, until someone strong enough to use it came along." A wedding certificate. In the altar's base, there's a second compartment. Father Morrison filed the certificate with the Vatican, but he kept a copy here. The church recognized their marriage even when the state of Virginia wouldn't. Marcus found the second compartment. Inside was an official document, yellowed but legible, a marriage certificate dated January 15, 1968, signed by Father Thomas Morrison, witnessed by Eleanor Bennett. This changes everything. This changes more than you know. If Catherine and William were legally married in the eyes of the church, then James was their legitimate son, which means your father was the rightful heir to the Ashford estate, which means everything the Drakes claimed was built on a lie they knew was false. Harrison Drake knew. He knew. Father Morrison told him, trying to appeal to his conscience. Harrison murdered Catherine 3 days later. Then he killed Father Morrison and made it look like a heart attack. Then he spent the next 50 years pretending the marriage never happened. Marcus looked at the certificate, at the rings, at the photograph of his great-grandparents on their wedding day, smiling in defiance of a world that wanted to destroy them. William left this for me to find. He knew I would come here. He knew Lily would lead you. Catherine appears to those who carry her gift. She appeared to me when I was a child. She appeared to your wife Sarah, though Sarah never understood what she was seeing. And now she appears to Lily. What gift? Eleanor touched Lily's face gently. The women in Catherine's bloodline can see across the veil. It's not something that can be taught or explained. It simply is. Lily will understand more as she grows older. For now, she sees what Catherine needs her to see. At 7:30 a.m., Marcus called Agent Reyes with the new evidence. A marriage certificate. You're telling me Catherine Price and William Ashford were legally married. In the eyes of the Catholic Church. Father Morrison filed the original with the Vatican. I have the church copy and witnesses who can verify its authenticity. Reyes was silent for a long moment. Do you understand what this means legally? It means my father was the legitimate heir to the Ashford estate. It means the Drakes didn't just steal money. They stole an entire inheritance based on a lie. It means we can add inheritance fraud to the charges against Victor and potentially open civil cases against the Drake family estate going back 60 years. This could get very complicated, Mr. Cole. Marcus, I need you to secure that certificate. Don't tell anyone else what you found. I'll send agents to collect it within the hour. Marcus hung up and found Rodriguez waiting with coffee and questions. What's the play, Cole? We protect the evidence, we let the legal system do its work, and we figure out what else William left for us to find. You think there's more? I think a man who spent 60 years planning his revenge didn't stop at one hidden vault. Catherine and William were married in this church. They must have had other places, other secrets. Eleanor joined them. Lily asleep in her arms after the exhausting night. There's a cabin, deep in the woods on Ashford property. William built it in 1969 right after Catherine died. He called it their honeymoon cottage even though they never got to use it together. He went there every anniversary until he disappeared. Disappeared, I thought he died. His body was never found. One day he was here, the next he was gone. The lawyers declared him dead after 7 years, but I always wondered if he simply decided to vanish. To become a ghost like the ones he'd been fighting. Marcus looked at the old woman who had kept so many secrets for so long. Eleanor, is William Ashford still alive? Her expression flickered. Something between hope and sorrow. I don't know, but if he is, I think he would want to see what his great-grandson has become. At 10:15 a.m., Marcus set out to find the cabin. Rodriguez insisted on coming despite his injuries from the previous night's firefight. William stayed at the manor to coordinate with FBI evidence teams. Chen remained with Eleanor and Lily, protecting the most precious assets they had. The woods on Ashford property stretched for 3 miles in every direction. Old growth forests that had never been logged, preserved by generations of Ashfords who believed some things were more valuable than lumber. Eleanor's directions were precise. Half a mile past the old mill. Turn left at the lightning-struck oak. Follow the creek until you see the stones William stacked as markers. They found the cabin at 11:47 a.m. It was small but solidly built. The kind of structure a man creates when he needs a sanctuary from the world. A place to grieve. A place to remember. A place to plan. The door was unlocked. Inside, Marcus found what he had not expected. Signs of recent habitation, a coffee cup with dried residue, a blanket on the narrow bed, a fire in the hearth reduced to cold ash but not ancient, days old at most, not years. Someone's been here, Rodriguez said, his hand moving to his sidearm. Marcus examined the small desk by the window. Papers covered its surface. Newspaper clippings about his own arrival in Hartwell, printed articles about Victor Drake's arrest, and a letter handwritten dated 3 days ago. Dear Marcus, if you are reading this, you have found what I hoped you would find. The marriage certificate. The truth about our family. The evidence that will finally destroy the people who destroyed us. I have watched you from afar for your entire life. I wanted so desperately to approach you, to claim you as my blood, to give you the advantages I had been denied giving your father. But the Drakes were always watching, always waiting for me to make a mistake. Now they are broken. Victor sits in a cell. The evidence speaks for itself, and I can finally do what I should have done 50 years ago. I am coming home, Marcus. To the manor, to the life I abandoned when I lost Catherine, to the family I should have claimed long ago. Wait for me. I will explain everything. Your great-uncle William Marcus read the letter twice, his heart pounding. William Ashford was alive, had been alive this entire time, watching, waiting, planning. We need to get back to the manor. Now. They ran. At 12:33 p.m., Marcus burst through the manor's front door to find Chen standing in the foyer with his weapon drawn. We've got a situation. Someone entered through the east wing 20 minutes ago. I've got them cornered in the library. Description. Male, elderly, white, walks with a limp. He said his name is William Ashford, and he wants to speak to his great-nephew. Marcus moved toward the library, his mind racing faster than his feet. 60 years. This man had spent 60 years in the shadows, watching his family suffer, watching the Drakes prosper, building a case that would outlive him. And now he was here. The library door was open. Inside, a figure sat in the chair by the fireplace. He was old, impossibly old, his face a map of decades. Lipombiaud's lived in grief and determination, but his eyes were sharp, clear, the same eyes Marcus saw in the mirror every morning. You found the church, William Ashford said. I knew you would. Catherine told me you would. Catherine's been dead for 60 years. Her body has. Her spirit never left. She watches over her family, Marcus. She always has. Why do you think your daughter can see things others cannot? Marcus approached slowly. This man had abandoned his family for half a century, had watched from the shadows while Marcus's father worked himself to death, had done nothing while Sarah died, and Marcus lost everything. You could have helped us, my father, my wife. You had the money, the power to change our lives, and you did nothing. I did the only thing I could do. I survived. I gathered evidence. I waited for the moment when the Drakes would be vulnerable enough to destroy. If I had revealed myself, if I had given your father or you a single dollar, they would have known. They would have traced it back to me, and they would have killed you just like they killed Catherine. So you let us suffer to protect us. I let you become strong. There's a difference. Your father never knew his true heritage, but he inherited Catherine's determination. He passed it to you. You passed it to Lily. That strength, that refusal to accept defeat, that's what I was preserving. That's what the Drakes feared more than any amount of money. William stood slowly, his old bones protesting the movement. He crossed to Marcus and placed a weathered hand on his great-nephew's face. I have dreamed of this moment for 60 years, of looking into the eyes of Catherine's descendant and seeing her fire still burning. You have her eyes, Marcus. Your father had them too, though he never knew why. Marcus felt tears threatening. He fought them back. You have a lot to answer for. I know, and I will answer. Every question you have, every doubt, every moment of suffering you endured because of my choices. But first, there's something you need to see, something I've been saving for this exact moment. William moved to the library's far wall, to a panel that Marcus had examined a dozen times without finding anything unusual. The old man pressed a sequence of points, and the panel slid open to reveal a room that shouldn't exist. Catherine's study, William said. I sealed it the day she died. No one has been inside since. The room was frozen in time, books still open on the desk, flowers long dead but preserved in their vases, photographs on every surface, and at the center of the desk, a letter in an envelope addressed simply, "For my son." She wrote it the night before she died. She was going to give it to James when he was old enough to understand, but she never got the chance. Marcus picked up the envelope with trembling hands. Catherine's handwriting. Catherine's words waiting 60 years to be read. My darling James, if you are reading this, I am no longer with you, but I need you to know that every moment of your life, even the moments I cannot share you, are loved beyond measure. Your father and I made a choice that the world calls sin. We loved each other. We created you. We married in secret in the eyes of God and our dearest friends. You are not the shame they will try to tell you that you are. You are the product of a love so powerful it defied everything society tried to use against it. I do not know what the future holds. Harrison Drake threatens us daily. He wants to destroy your father and take everything we have built. He sees our love as an abomination, our marriage as a crime, and you as evidence that must be erased. But he cannot erase you, my son. No matter what happens to me, you will survive. You will grow. You will become someone remarkable. I know this because I have seen it in dreams that feel more real than waking life. One day, your descendants will find this letter. They will know the truth, and they will finish what your father and I started. They will bring justice to those who destroyed us. They will reclaim our family's legacy. They will prove that love, true love, cannot be killed. Be strong, my son. Be proud of who you are, and know that wherever I am watching over you always. Your mother, Catherine Marcus, read the letter aloud. His voice broke twice. Rodriguez turned away to hide his own tears. Even Chen, hardened by years of combat, wiped his eyes. William Ashford wept openly. I have read that letter 1,000 times, he said. Every anniversary, every birthday, every moment when I thought I couldn't continue. Catherine's words kept me alive, and now finally they can do what she intended. They can reach her son's son. My father never knew. No, he died believing he was abandoned, unloved, a mistake to be hidden. It is my greatest shame that I could not tell him the truth. But I can tell you. I can give you the legacy Catherine intended for him, and you can pass it to Lily, who carries Catherine's gift stronger than anyone since Catherine herself. At 2:45 p.m., the FBI arrived to take William Ashford's statement. Agent Reyes spent 3 hours documenting the old man's testimony. 60 years of crimes laid out in meticulous detail. Names, dates, amounts. Every bribe Harrison Drake ever paid. Every life he destroyed. Every law he broke. But it was William's personal story that hit hardest. I met Catherine at the public library in 1958. She was reaching for a book on the highest shelf, and I helped her get it. She smiled at me, and I knew in that moment that my life would never be the same. You knew the relationship would be dangerous. I knew it would be impossible. Virginia still had anti-miscegenation laws. A white man and a black woman couldn't marry, couldn't even be seen together without risking violence. But love doesn't care about laws. Love just is. When did Harrison Drake discover the relationship? 1964. Catherine was pregnant with James. We had been careful, but someone saw us together and reported it to Harrison. He came to me with an ultimatum. End the relationship or he would expose us publicly. I would lose my business, my reputation, everything. Catherine would face worse. But you didn't end it. I couldn't. Catherine was carrying my child, our child. So we went deeper underground. We created false identities for Catherine. We hid James with families we trusted. We lived a lie that felt more true than anything the world called truth. And the marriage. Father Morrison was a good man. He believed that God's law superseded Virginia's law. He married us in secret and filed the certificate with the Vatican, where no American authority could easily access it. For 3 days, we were husband and wife in the fullest sense. Then Harrison found out. William's voice broke. Someone told him. A servant, a neighbor I never knew. He came to me with evidence of the marriage. He said if I didn't sign over the company, he would make sure Catherine suffered before she died. You refused. I told him to go to hell. I thought I could protect her. I thought my money, my connections, my lawyers would be enough. I was a fool. What happened on January 18, 1968? Catherine left to meet with Harrison. She was going to negotiate, she said. Try to find common ground for James's sake. I begged her not to go. I had a terrible feeling, but she believed she could reach Harrison's humanity. She was wrong. Harrison didn't have humanity. He had her car forced off a bridge and into the river, made it look like an accident. The police didn't even investigate seriously. A black woman dead in rural Virginia in 1968. No one cared. Except you. I have cared every moment of every day for 60 years. I have gathered evidence. I have documented every crime. I have built a fortune in secret and hidden it where the Drakes could never find it. And I have waited for the moment when justice could finally be served. William looked at Marcus with tears streaming down his weathered face. That moment is now. My great-nephew found what I left for him. He found the courage to fight when others would have run. He found the truth. And now finally Catherine can rest, and so can I. At 7:30 p.m., Marcus sat with William in Catherine's sealed study. The old man was exhausted from hours of testimony, but he refused to sleep until he had answered Marcus's remaining questions. Why did you disappear? The town thought you were dead. I had to. Victor was getting too close. He had been tracking my movements, monitoring my communications. If I had stayed, he would have found the evidence before it was ready, so I vanished. Became a ghost. watched from a distance while I waited for the right moment. The cabin in the woods. One of several places I used. I moved constantly, never stayed anywhere long enough to be found. It was a lonely existence, but it kept the evidence safe. And Lily, how does she fit into this? William smiled, the first genuine smile Marcus had seen from him. Catherine's gift passes through the women of her line. Your wife Sarah had it, though weakly. She probably experienced it as vivid dreams or strong intuition, but Lily has it fully. She can see what Catherine shows her. Hear what Catherine needs her to hear. That's why she knew about the tunnel, about the church. Catherine guides her, protects her. Lily is the first of Catherine's blood to carry the gift so strongly since Catherine herself. She will be remarkable, Marcus. She already is. How do I help her understand what she's experiencing? You don't. You just love her, accept her, let her find her own way to the gift. Eleanor can guide her as she grows older. Eleanor understands better than anyone what it means to live with knowledge others cannot share. Marcus looked at the photographs surrounding them. Catherine in every stage of her short life. Smiling, laughing, holding baby James. Loving William with an intensity that radiated through the decades. Did you ever stop loving her? Never, not for one moment. I will love her until I die, and if there is anything beyond death, I will love her there too. That is what the Drakes never understood. They thought they could kill our love by killing her. But love doesn't die that easily. It just transforms, becomes something stronger, something that can reach across 60 years and touch a 9-year-old girl who never knew her great-great-grandmother. At 10 p.m., Lily woke from a nightmare crying for her father. Marcus reached her room in seconds. She was sitting up in bed, tears streaming down her face, reaching for something invisible. She's leaving, Daddy. Catherine says she has to go now. She says her work is done. Marcus held his daughter close. Where is she going? To be with William, the real William, not the old one downstairs. She says she's been waiting 60 years to see him again, and now she can finally go home. Is she happy? Lily nodded against his chest. She says thank you for finding the truth, for giving her son's story back to him. She says James knows now. He knows who he really was, and he's not angry at William anymore. Marcus felt tears on his own cheeks. His father, somewhere beyond death, finally understanding the truth about his birth. Finally knowing he was loved. Tell her thank you for watching over us, for leading us here. Lily closed her eyes, concentrating. Then she smiled. She heard you. She says she loves you, Daddy. She says Mommy is with her and Mommy loves you too. They're going to watch over us together now. Marcus held his daughter until she fell asleep again, the ghost of Catherine's blessing warming them both. At 11:47 p.m., William Ashford collapsed in Catherine's study. Chen found him slumped over her desk, clutching Catherine's letter to James against his chest. His pulse was thready, his breathing shallow. Call an ambulance, Marcus shouted, but William grabbed his hand with surprising strength. No hospitals. I've waited 60 years for this moment. Let me go to her. William, you need help. I need Catherine. I've needed her every day since she died. And now finally I can be with her again. Don't take that from me. Marcus looked at the old man who had sacrificed everything for love, who had spent 60 years fighting from the shadows, who had finally seen his life's work completed. Is there anything you need? Anything I can do? William smiled. Tell Lily I saw her. In my dreams, the way Catherine sees her. She's going to do remarkable things, Marcus. Things neither of us can imagine. Watch over her. Love her. Let her become whoever she's meant to be. I will. And take care of this house. It's more than just a building. It's Catherine's home. Her spirit lives in these walls. She'll stay as long as there's family here to welcome her. We're not going anywhere. William's grip loosened. His eyes found the photograph on the desk. Catherine smiling. Forever young while he had grown ancient. I'm coming, my love. I'm finally coming home. William Ashford died at 12:03 a.m. exactly 60 years and 16 days after Catherine Price was murdered. His last breath was a smile. His last word was her name. The funeral home director looked at Marcus with barely concealed confusion at 9:15 a.m. the next morning. You want to bury William Ashford next to Catherine Price, sir. The Price family plot is in the colored section of the old cemetery. No white person has ever been buried there. Then William will be the first. Sir, I don't think you understand. There are laws, traditions. The town council will never approve. The town council doesn't own that cemetery. The Ashford family does. William bought it in 1969. Every plot, every headstone, every inch of ground. Check the deed if you don't believe me. The director's face went pale as he shuffled through old records. Marcus waited. He had found the cemetery deed in William's papers at 3 a.m., unable to sleep after watching his great-uncle die with Catherine's name on his lips. This is highly irregular. What's irregular is that a man and his wife were kept apart for 60 years because of the color of her skin. What's irregular is that their love was called a crime. What's irregular is that this town let a murderer walk free while a good woman rotted in a segregated grave. Marcus leaned forward, his voice dropping to the quiet intensity that had made enemy combatants surrender without a fight. William Ashford will be buried next to Catherine Price. Their headstone will acknowledge them as husband and wife. And if anyone in this town has a problem with that, they can take it up with me personally. The director swallowed hard. When would you like to schedule the service? Tomorrow, sunrise, the same hour Catherine died. Rodriguez found Marcus at 11:30 a.m. sitting in Catherine's study surrounded by 60 years of accumulated evidence. You look like hell, hermano. I feel like hell. I watched a man die last night, a man who spent his entire life fighting for justice he never got to see. He saw it, Cole. He saw Victor Drake in handcuffs. He saw you find the truth. He saw his family's legacy pass to the next generation. That's more than most people get. It's not enough. None of this is enough. Catherine is still dead. My father still lived his whole life not knowing who he was. And William spent 60 years alone loving a ghost. Rodriguez sat down across from him. What would be enough? Marcus looked at the photographs, covering every surface. Catherine laughing. Catherine reading. Catherine holding baby James with that fierce protective love that only mothers possess. I want her story told, not just in court documents and legal proceedings. I want the world to know who Catherine Price really was, what she sacrificed, what she and William built together in defiance of everything that tried to destroy them. So tell it. How? You're sitting in a room full of her words, Cole. Her letters, her journals, her photographs. William preserved everything. He was waiting for someone to turn it into something the world could understand. At 2 p.m., Agent Reyes arrived with news that hit like a second funeral. Victor Drake cut a deal. Marcus felt his blood turn to ice. What kind of deal? Full cooperation in exchange for reduced charges. He's giving up everything. Names of corrupt officials, details of ongoing criminal enterprises, evidence against business partners who helped cover up his family's crimes for decades. He's going to walk free. He's going to serve 15 years instead of life. And he's going to testify against 17 other people, including 3 sitting judges and a state senator. Marcus stood so abruptly his chair crashed backward. His grandfather murdered Catherine. His family stole my father's entire inheritance. And he gets 15 years. He gets justice, Marcus. It's not the justice you wanted, but it's justice. The Drake Empire is finished. Their assets are frozen. Their allies are scrambling for cover, and Victor will spend the rest of his productive years in a federal prison. It's not enough. It never is. That's the hardest lesson about this work. Perfect justice doesn't exist. We take what we can get, and we keep fighting for more. Marcus walked to the window, staring out at the grounds where Catherine used to read beneath the magnolia tree. What about the civil case, the inheritance fraud? That's separate from the criminal proceedings. The marriage certificate you found changes everything. If Catherine and William were legally married, then their son James was the legitimate heir to the Ashford estate, which means your father was entitled to everything the Drakes stole. Can we prove it? The Vatican confirmed the marriage registration this morning. Father Morrison's records were meticulous. In the eyes of the Catholic Church, Catherine Price and William Ashford were husband and wife from January 15, 1968 until her death 3 days later. Marcus closed his eyes. 3 days. They had 3 days as a married couple before Harrison Drake destroyed everything. What happens now? Now we go to civil court. We file for restoration of the Ashford estate. We claim damages against the Drake family for 60 years of fraud and wrongful appropriation. The numbers are staggering, Marcus. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't care about the money. I know, but the money is how we make them pay. The money is how we ensure that what happened to your family never happens again. And the money is how we build something lasting in Catherine's memory. Lily found Marcus in the garden at 4:30 p.m. planting flowers around the magnolia tree. Daddy, why are you digging? I'm making a garden for Catherine. She loved flowers. Lily knelt beside him, her small hands joining his in the soil. She's happy now. I can feel it. She's with William, and they're not sad anymore. How do you know, baby girl? The same way I know lots of things. I just feel them, like how I knew where the tunnel was, like how I knew about the church. Marcus looked at his daughter, 9 years old and carrying a gift that defied explanation, a connection to ancestors she had never met speaking to her across the boundary between life and death. Does it scare you, seeing things other people can't? Sometimes, but Catherine told me not to be afraid. She said it's like having extra eyes. I can see more than other people, so I can help more than other people. What else did she tell you? Lily was quiet for a moment, her hands still working the soil. She said I'm going to do important things when I grow up, things that will help lots of people. She said that's why she gave me the gift, so I could be ready? Ready for what? I don't know yet. She said I'll understand when the time comes. She said you'll help me figure it out. Marcus pulled his daughter close, soil and all. I will. Whatever happens, wherever this gift takes you, I'll be right beside you. Promise? Promise. Eleanor arrived at 6 p.m. with a box Marcus had never seen before. William gave this to me 30 years ago. He said to wait until after he died to open it. I think the time has come. Inside the box were videotapes, dozens of them, dated from 1975 through 2005. What are these but William's testimony? He recorded everything, not just the evidence against the Drakes, but his own story, his memories of Catherine, his account of what happened and why. He wanted his great-grandchildren to know him even if he couldn't be present in their lives. Marcus picked up the earliest tape, January 15, 1975, the 7th anniversary of William and Catherine's wedding. Can we watch them? He wanted you to. He spent decades talking to a camera, hoping that someday the person on the other end would be someone who could understand. They set up the old VCR that Williams found in the Manor's basement. The picture was grainy, the audio distorted, but William's voice came through clearly. My name is William Ashford. Today is January 15, 1975. 7 years ago, I married the love of my life. 3 days later, she was murdered by my business partner because she dared to love me openly. Marcus watched as his great-uncle, young and vital, spoke directly to the camera with tears streaming down his face. I am making these recordings for my descendants, for the children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren who will never know me but who deserve to know the truth about their family, about the love that created them, about the sacrifice that preserved them. The tape continued for 3 hours. William spoke about meeting Catherine, about their courtship conducted in secret, about the joy of learning she was pregnant, and the terror of knowing what that pregnancy would mean in 1962 Virginia. He spoke about Harrison Drake's blackmail, about the wedding, about the 3 days of happiness that were all they ever had as husband and wife. And he spoke about the night Catherine died. I knew something was wrong. I could feel it. We had been married for 3 days, and every moment felt like borrowed time. She went to meet Harrison against my wishes. She believed she could reason with him. She believed there was humanity in him that she could reach. William's voice broke. Even on a tape recorded 50 years ago, the grief was raw and present. I waited all night. When dawn came and she hadn't returned, I knew. I knew before the police called. I knew before they found her car in the river. I knew that the life we had imagined, the future we had planned, was over. At 9 p.m., Marcus paused the recordings to check on Lily. She had fallen asleep on the couch, exhausted from the emotional weight of the past few days. Eleanor sat beside her, stroking her hair. She looked so much like Catherine at that age, the same stubbornness, the same determination, the same light in her eyes. Tell me about Catherine, not the tragedy. Tell me who she was before Harrison Drake destroyed her. Eleanor smiled, remembering. She was brilliant. First in her class at the colored school, which made white students at the white school look like underachievers. She could have been anything, a doctor, a lawyer, a professor. But in 1958 Virginia, a black woman's options were limited. How did she end up with William? The library. Hartwell had one public library, and technically it was segregated, but the librarian was a progressive woman from Philadelphia who looked the other way. Catherine spent every free moment there reading everything she could get her hands on. And William, he was there researching maritime law for his business. He saw Catherine reaching for a book on the highest shelf and offered to help. She told him she didn't need help from anyone. He said he wasn't offering help, just admiring her taste in literature. Eleanor laughed softly. They argued about Hemingway for an hour. By the end of that first conversation, they were both in trouble, the kind of trouble neither of them wanted to escape. How did they keep it secret for so long? Carefully, painfully. They couldn't be seen together in public, couldn't acknowledge each other on the street. Catherine would come to the manor through the woods after dark and leave before sunrise. William would visit her at the church where Father Morrison protected them. It sounds exhausting. It was, but they loved each other so completely that the exhaustion didn't matter. I watched them together, Marcus. I was the only witness to their true relationship, and what they had was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Two people who chose each other over everything else, over safety, over comfort, over their own lives. At 10:45 p.m., Marcus received a call that shattered the fragile peace of the evening. Mr. Cole, this is Patricia Holloway from Hartwell Savings and Trust. I'm calling about a problem with the safe deposit box you accessed. What kind of problem? Someone broke into our vault an hour ago. The box containing Catherine Price's documents was specifically targeted. The police are here, but I thought you should know immediately. Marcus was moving before she finished speaking. Rodriguez was already reaching for his keys. Who has access to information about that box? Only bank employees and the people who have been requesting records through the courts. Victor Drake's lawyers. Even from prison, even with a plea deal in place, the Drakes were still fighting. At 11:30 p.m., Marcus stood in the bank vault looking at the empty space where Catherine's box had been. The original documents were gone. The life insurance policy. The journal documenting Harrison Drake's crimes. The tape recording of Harrison's confession. 60 years of evidence vanished in a single night. Sheriff Williams took Marcus's statement with obvious frustration. We've got security footage showing 3 men in masks, professional job, in and out in under 4 minutes. Victor Drake. He's in federal custody, Mr. Cole. There's no way he could have coordinated this. Then someone working for him has someone who doesn't want this evidence to reach civil court. Agent Reyes arrived at midnight with federal backup. Her expression told Marcus everything he needed to know. This wasn't random. The break-in was specifically timed for the gap between state and federal jurisdiction. Someone with inside knowledge of both systems planned this. One of the corrupt officials Victor is testifying against. That's my guess. Someone who realized that the civil case could expose crimes that Victor's criminal plea doesn't cover. Someone who needs those documents destroyed to protect themselves. Marcus felt rage building in his chest. We had everything. Every piece of evidence William spent 60 years collecting, and now it's gone. Not everything. Reyes placed a hand on his shoulder. William made copies, multiple copies. We have the digitized files from the vault beneath the manor. We have the video recordings he made. We have his journals and letters and photographs. The originals are gone, but the truth survives. The originals were proof. Authenticated, dated, verified proof. Without them, the civil case becomes harder. Not impossible. Harder. Marcus looked at the empty vault, at the space where Catherine's final words to her son had rested for 60 years. I want to know who did this. I want names. We're working on it. The security footage shows the getaway vehicle heading east on Route 15. State police have set up roadblocks. If they're still in Virginia, we'll find them. At 2:30 a.m., the call came. The getaway vehicle had been found abandoned near the West Virginia border. Inside were the charred remains of documents. Someone had tried to burn everything, but hadn't finished the job. Marcus arrived at the scene at 4 a.m. just as forensic technicians began their work. Some of it's salvageable, the lead tech reported. The fire was interrupted. Maybe they got spooked. Maybe they ran out of time. But about 30% of the documents survived enough to be readable. Marcus watched as they carefully extracted half-burned papers from the vehicle. Catherine's handwriting singed but visible. Harrison Drake's confession tape melted on one side but potentially recoverable. Can you save enough for court? Depends on what you need. Some of these documents are authenticated just by their condition. Fire damage that matches the timeline. Age verification on the paper stock. It won't be as strong as the originals, but it's not nothing. Rodriguez joined Marcus as the sun began to rise over the Virginia hills. You should sleep, hermano. You've been awake for almost 48 hours. Can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see William dying. I hear him saying her name, and I think about how close we came to losing everything. But we didn't lose everything. That's the point. They tried to destroy the evidence and they failed, just like they've been failing for 60 years. They killed Catherine and got away with it for 6 decades. And now they're not getting away with it anymore. Victor's in prison. His family's empire is destroyed. And you're standing here, Catherine's great-grandson, making sure the world knows her story. That's not failure, Cole. That's victory. At 8 a.m., Marcus returned to the manor to find Eleanor waiting with news that changed everything again. I forgot about the copies. What copies? William made me keep copies of the most important documents, not at my cottage, somewhere safer, somewhere no one would think to look. Where? The church, in the altar, the same place you found the marriage certificate. There's a third compartment. William installed it after Catherine died. He said it was his insurance policy. They reached the church by 9 a.m. Marcus's hands shook as he searched for the hidden compartment Eleanor described. His fingers found a seam in the wood that he had missed before. Inside was another metal box, smaller than the others but packed with documents. The originals of the originals. William's master archive. Everything he had spent 60 years collecting duplicated and hidden in the one place that had witnessed his marriage to Catherine. He knew, Marcus whispered. He knew someone would try to destroy the evidence. He prepared for it. William prepared for everything. He had contingencies for his contingencies. He knew the Drakes would never stop fighting, so he made sure there would always be something left to fight with. Agent Reyes arrived at the church at 10:30 a.m., her expression shifting from skepticism to amazement as she examined the contents of the hidden archive. This is more complete than what was in the bank, more detailed, more damaging. William's insurance policy. More like his nuclear option, these documents don't just prove the original crimes. They prove the ongoing cover-up. 60 years of obstruction of justice, witness tampering, and fraud. If this is authentic, it's authentic. William spent his whole life making sure it would be. Reyes looked at Marcus with new respect. Your great-uncle was a remarkable man. He was a man in love, that's all. Everything he did, every sacrifice he made, every year he spent in hiding, it was all because he loved Catherine Price and refused to let her death be meaningless. At 1 p.m., Marcus stood before William's grave as workers finished installing the headstone. William Ashford, 1935 to 2024. Beloved husband of Catherine, and next to it the stone that had stood alone for 60 years, now modified to tell the truth, Catherine Price, Ashford, 1940-1968. Beloved wife of William, mother of James, grandmother of Marcus, great-grandmother of Lily. She has a family now, Eleanor said, standing beside him. For 60 years she lay here alone. Now she's surrounded by love. Do you think she knows? I know she knows. Lily told me this morning that Catherine is at peace. She said Catherine and William are together in a place where no one can separate them, a place where love doesn't have to hide. Marcus thought about his father James, who had lived and died never knowing this grave existed, never knowing the woman buried here had loved him enough to die for him. I wish my father could have seen this. He does see it. Catherine told Lily that James understands now. He knows who his parents were. He knows why they had to keep him secret, and he's not angry anymore. He's proud. Proud of what? Of you, of what you've accomplished, of the family you're building in his name. Lily appeared at Marcus's side, taking his hand as naturally as breathing. Daddy, can I put flowers on Catherine's grave? Of course, baby girl. She knelt and placed a single magnolia blossom against the headstone. Thank you for helping us find the truth. Thank you for watching over Daddy and me. Thank you for loving us, even though you never got to meet us. Marcus watched his daughter speak to a grandmother she had never known through a gift she didn't fully understand, with a faith that seemed to transcend the boundaries of ordinary existence. And he realized that this was what William had been building toward all along. Not just justice, not just money, not just revenge against the family that had destroyed his life. Family, legacy, love that survived death and time, and every obstacle the world could place in its path. At 4 p.m., Rodriguez found Marcus in Catherine's study organizing the documents they would need for the civil trial. The lawyers called. Trial date is set for 6 months from now. They're confident we can win, especially with the church archive. What about the criminal cases against the people who broke into the bank? 3 arrests so far, all connected to a state senator who was taking money from the Drakes for 20 years. He's cooperating in exchange for a reduced sentence. More deals. More dominoes falling. Every person who helped the Drakes cover up their crimes is rushing to cut a deal before the next person beats them to it. The whole system is collapsing. Marcus looked at the photograph of Catherine on the desk, the same photograph William must have looked at every day for 60 years. She deserved better than this. Better than having her murder turned into a legal chess match. She deserved to live. She deserved to raise her son and grow old with her husband and meet her grandchildren. None of us get what we deserve, Cole. We just get what we fight for. Then I'm going to fight for everything, every dollar, every conviction, every acknowledgement of what was done to her. I'm going to make the Drake name synonymous with injustice. I'm going to make sure that 100 years from now, when people hear the name Catherine Price Ashford, they know she was a hero who was murdered by cowards. At 7 p.m., Marcus tucked Lily into bed for the first peaceful night since William's death. Daddy, what happens now? Now we rest. Tomorrow we start building. Building what? A foundation, in Catherine's name, to help other families who've been hurt by people like the Drakes. William left us enough money to make a real difference in the world. I think that's what he always wanted. Not just justice for our family, but justice for everyone who's been denied it. Lily smiled sleepily. Catherine would like that. I think she would. She told me something else, Daddy. She said there are more families like ours. Families whose histories were stolen. Families whose truths were buried. She said you're going to help them find their stories just like you found ours. That's a big job, baby girl. That's why you have me, and Rodriguez, and Chen, and Williams, and Eleanor. Catherine says you're not alone anymore. You have a family now, a real family. Shamos. Marcus kissed his daughter's forehead. Sleep now. Tomorrow we start our new life. I love you, Daddy. I love you more. He left her door open the way she liked it and walked down to the library where the others waited. Rodriguez, Chen, Williams, Eleanor, 4 people who had become family through fire and truth and shared purpose. So, Rodriguez said, what's the plan? Marcus looked around at the room where William had spent 60 years plotting his revenge, at the walls lined with evidence, at the photographs of Catherine that had sustained a broken man through decades of loneliness. The plan is we finish what William started. We take the fight to every corrupt system that allowed the Drakes to destroy innocent lives. We use the money and the evidence and the platform we now have to expose everyone who participated in the cover-up. That's going to make enemies, Chen observed. Good. The Drakes had enemies too. They just didn't know how to fight them. We do. Williams cracked his knuckles. When do we start? Marcus smiled. For the first time since William died, he felt something like hope. We already have. 6 months passed like water through a broken dam. Fast, relentless, transforming everything in its path. Marcus stood outside the federal courthouse at 7:30 a.m. on the morning of the civil trial, watching reporters assemble like vultures circling a wounded animal. But the wounded animal today was not him. It was the Drake Empire bleeding out in full public view. You ready for this? Rodriguez asked, adjusting his tie with the discomfort of a man more accustomed to combat gear than courtroom attire. I've been ready for 6 months. William was ready for 60 years. Catherine has been ready since the night she died. The courtroom was packed by 8:45 a.m., every seat filled. Reporters lined the walls. Camera crews waited outside for any scrap of information that emerged. At the defendant's table sat Victor Drake's legal representatives. Victor himself remained in federal prison, but his family's remaining assets were on trial. Every dollar, every property, every investment made with money stolen from the Ashford estate. Marcus took his seat at the plaintiff's table. Beside him sat Eleanor, called as a witness. Behind him sat Rodriguez, Chen, and Williams. And in the front row, holding a drawing she had made for this occasion, sat Lily. The judge entered at 9 a.m. sharp. The Honorable Margaret Thompson, 63 years old, known for her precision and her intolerance for legal theatrics. This court is now in session. The matter before us is Cole versus the Drake family estate. Mr. Harrison, you may present your opening statement. David Harrison, lead attorney for Marcus, rose with the quiet confidence of a man holding a winning hand. Your Honor, what we present today is not simply a case of inheritance fraud. It is a case of systematic destruction spanning 6 decades. It is a case of murder covered up by money and power. It is a case of a family whose very identity was stolen and replaced with lies. He walked toward the jury box. In 1962, Catherine Price and William Ashford fell in love. In 1968, they were married in a ceremony recognized by the Catholic Church. 3 days later, Catherine was murdered by Harrison Drake because she dared to love a white man openly. The courtroom stirred. Even in 2024, the words carried weight. Harrison Drake then spent the next 50 years erasing every trace of that marriage. He stole William Ashford's business. He stole James Ashford's inheritance. He stole an entire family's history and replaced it with lies that his son and grandson continued to perpetuate. Harrison turned to face the defense table. Today we ask this court to restore what was stolen. Not just money, though the amounts are staggering. We ask for acknowledgement. We ask for justice. We ask for the truth to finally be entered into the public record where it can never be erased again. The defense attorney, Victoria Spelling, rose with practiced composure at 9:47 a.m. Your Honor, the plaintiff's case rests on documents of questionable authenticity, testimony from interested parties, and emotional appeals to historical injustice. While no one disputes that the relationship between Catherine Price and William Ashford was tragic, the legal questions before this court are narrow and specific. She addressed the jury directly. The plaintiff must prove that a valid marriage existed, that inheritance fraud occurred, that the Drake family knowingly participated in that fraud, and that the damages claimed are accurate and recoverable. The evidence they present, much of it damaged by fire, much of it copied rather than original, does not meet that burden. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. 6 months of preparation, and the defense strategy was exactly what he expected. Deny, delay, diminish. The first witness took the stand at 10:15 a.m. Father Michael Brennan, representing the Vatican Archives. Father Brennan, can you tell the court what records your office maintains regarding marriages performed by American Catholic priests in the 1960s? We maintain copies of all marriage certificates filed with the Vatican. These are considered canonical records legally recognized in most jurisdictions. And did your office receive a marriage certificate for Catherine Price and William Ashford? Yes, filed by Father Thomas Morrison on January 16, 1968. The certificate is authentic, properly witnessed, and has been in our archives for 56 years. In your expert opinion, were Catherine Price and William Ashford legally married in the eyes of the Catholic Church? Without question, their marriage was valid, properly performed, and officially recognized. The defense attorney approached for cross-examination at 10:52 a.m. Father Brennan, is it true that marriages recognized by the Catholic Church are not automatically recognized by civil authorities? That depends on the jurisdiction. In Virginia in 1968, was a marriage between a white man and a black woman legally recognized? No, anti-miscegenation laws prohibited such marriages until the Loving v. Virginia decision in 1967. So even if the church recognized the marriage Virginia law at the time would not have, the laws were overturned in June 1967. The Ashford-Price marriage was performed in January 1968. By that point, interracial marriage was legal throughout the United States. Marcus watched the defense attorney's expression falter. They had expected to use the timing against them. They hadn't done their homework. No further questions. Eleanor took the stand at 11:30 a.m. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice was steady. Miss Bennett, you were present at the marriage ceremony of Catherine Price and William Ashford. I was. I served as Catherine's witness. Can you describe what you observed that night? Catherine wore a white dress she had made herself. William wore his best suit. Father Morrison performed the ceremony in the church at midnight when we were certain no one would disturb us. They exchanged vows. They exchanged rings. Father Morrison pronounced them husband and wife. And after the ceremony, we celebrated quietly. Catherine and William had 3 days together as husband and wife before she was killed. Did you have any interaction with Harrison Drake regarding this marriage? Eleanor's expression hardened. Harrison Drake came to my home 2 days after Catherine's funeral. He told me that if I ever spoke about the wedding, he would make sure I disappeared, just like Catherine had. The courtroom erupted. Judge Thompson banged her gavel repeatedly before order was restored. He threatened to kill you. He made it very clear that speaking the truth about Catherine and William would cost me my life. I believed him. Harrison Drake was a man who made good on his threats. During the lunch recess at 12:45 p.m., Marcus found Lily in the hallway showing her drawing to Eleanor. What did you draw, baby girl? It's Catherine and William, on their wedding day. She showed me what it looked like in my dreams. Marcus looked at the drawing. His daughter had captured something remarkable. The joy on the faces, the defiance in their posture. 2 people choosing love over fear. It's beautiful, Lily. Can I give it to the judge? Catherine wants her to see it. Marcus looked at Eleanor, who nodded slightly. We'll ask the lawyer if that's possible. The afternoon session resumed at 2 p.m. with the presentation of physical evidence. This is the marriage certificate found in the church altar, Harrison explained, displaying the document on the courtroom screens. It has been authenticated by 3 independent forensic experts. The paper stock matches materials available in 1968. The ink composition is consistent with products used during that period. The handwriting has been verified as that of Father Thomas Morrison. He presented the next document. This is the life insurance policy Catherine Price purchased in 1967, naming her son James as the sole beneficiary. The policy was never claimed because James Ashford was raised under a different name, never knowing his true parentage. And the value of that policy today, with accumulated interest and penalties for delayed payment approximately $600,000. The defense attorney objected. The policy lapsed decades ago. The insurance company is not a party to this lawsuit. Your Honor, we're not seeking payment from the insurance company. We're demonstrating a pattern of inheritance theft. Catherine Price took steps to provide for her son. Those provisions were systematically blocked by the Drake family. Objection overruled. Continue. At 3:15 p.m., the prosecution played the recording that had taken 60 years to reach a courtroom. Harrison Drake's voice filled the chamber, arrogant and dismissive. You think anyone will believe you, William? A white man who bedded a colored girl, I'm offering you a way out. Sign over your shares, disappear, and I'll make sure the boy is raised properly. William's voice responded broken but defiant. And if I refuse, then I'll solve the problem permanently. That woman is a complication. Complications get removed. The recording continued for 12 minutes. Every word documented. Every threat preserved. Every admission of guilt captured on tape that had survived 60 years of attempted destruction. When it ended, several jurors were crying. One had to be excused to compose herself. Marcus took the stand at 4:30 p.m. Mr. Cole, can you describe your situation when you first learned of your inheritance? I was living in a homeless shelter with my daughter. I had $47 to my name. I was a decorated Marine veteran who had served 3 tours in Afghanistan, and I couldn't afford to feed my child. How did learning the truth about your family affect you? Marcus paused, choosing his words carefully. I spent my entire life not knowing who I was. My father spent his entire life not knowing who he was. We lived in poverty, while the Drakes lived in luxury, spending money that should have been ours. My wife died from cancer that better medical care might have caught earlier. My daughter almost grew up on the streets. He looked at the jury. But what the Drakes stole from us wasn't just money. They stole our identity. They stole our history. They stole the right to know that we came from love instead of shame. They made my father believe he was abandoned when the truth was that his parents loved him so much they died protecting him. What do you hope to achieve through this lawsuit? I want the truth on the record. I want my daughter to grow up knowing exactly who her great-great-grandmother was. I want Catherine Price's name restored. And yes, I want the money that was stolen from 3 generations of my family returned. The defense attorney approached for cross-examination at 5:15 p.m. Mr. Cole, isn't it true that you had never met William Ashford before inheriting this property? That's correct. And isn't it true that until 6 months ago you had no knowledge of Catherine Price, the marriage, or any of the events we've been discussing? Also correct. So your entire claim rests on documents and testimony from others. You personally have no direct knowledge of anything that occurred in 1968. I have direct knowledge of the results. I have direct knowledge of growing up poor while the Drakes lived in mansions built with stolen money. I have direct knowledge of my father working himself to death, never knowing his real parents loved him. But you can't personally verify that the marriage occurred. I can personally verify that my great-uncle spent 60 years documenting the truth. I can personally verify that the Vatican has records of the marriage. I can personally verify that Eleanor Bennett witnessed it. And I can personally verify that Victor Drake broke into a bank vault to destroy the evidence, which seems like strange behavior for someone who believed the marriage never happened. The defense attorney had no response. The trial entered its second week with expert testimony about financial damages. Based on our analysis, the forensic accountant testified at 9:30 a.m. on Monday, the Ashford-Drake partnership was worth approximately $12 million in 1968. If James Ashford had inherited his legitimate share and that money had been properly invested, the current value would exceed $200 million. And what did James Ashford actually inherit? Nothing. He was raised by a family that received payments from Harrison Drake to keep him hidden. He lived his entire life in working-class circumstances, never knowing he was heir to a fortune. What happened to the Ashford share of the partnership? It was absorbed into Drake family holdings through a series of fraudulent transactions. We have documented every transfer, every forged signature, every lie told to legitimize the theft. The defense called their own financial expert at 2 p.m. attempting to minimize the damages. Isn't it speculative to assume that James Ashford would have invested his inheritance wisely? We're not assuming anything. We're calculating what the money would be worth today if it had simply been placed in index funds tracking the market average. Our numbers are conservative. But you can't know what would have actually happened. We can know what did happen. The Drake family took $12 million that didn't belong to them and turned it into a business empire worth over $300 million. They did exactly what we're saying James Ashford could have done, except they did it with stolen money. On Tuesday at 10:45 a.m., the prosecution called its final witness, Lily Cole. Marcus had agonized over this decision. His daughter was 9 years old. Putting her on the stand felt exploitative, manipulative, but Lily had insisted. "Catherine wants me to tell them," she had said. "She has something she needs people to hear." The courtroom fell silent as Lily took the stand. Her feet didn't touch the floor. Her voice was small, but clear. "Lily, can you tell the court about the dreams you've been having?" "I dream about a lady named Catherine. She shows me things. She told me where to find the tunnel under the house. She told me about the church where her wedding was." "How long have you been having these dreams?" "Since my mommy died, Catherine came to me and said she was going to watch over me and Daddy." "What does Catherine tell you in these dreams?" Lily looked directly at the jury. "She says she was murdered because she loved someone. She says the bad people stole her baby and made him forget who he was. She says she waited 60 years for someone to tell the truth." "Is there anything else Catherine wants you to say?" Lily nodded solemnly. "She says she forgives the people who hurt her. She says hate is like poison that hurts the person who drinks it. But she says forgiveness doesn't mean no consequences. It means telling the truth and letting the truth decide what happens next." The defense attorney wisely declined to cross-examine a 9-year-old. Closing arguments began at 2 p.m. on Wednesday. David Harrison stood before the jury with the weight of 60 years behind him. "You have heard testimony from witnesses who were there. You have seen documents authenticated by experts. You have listened to Harrison Drake confess to murder and theft in his own voice." He walked slowly along the jury box. "The defense wants you to believe this is about money. They want you to focus on the complexity of inheritance law, on the technicalities of document authentication, on anything except the simple human truth at the heart of this case. That truth is this: Catherine Price and William Ashford loved each other. They married in defiance of a world that said their love was wrong. And they paid for that love with everything they had. Yet," he pointed to Marcus, "this man lost his father, who never knew his real parents. He lost his wife, who might have lived with better medical care. He lost years of his life to poverty that was imposed on him by the Drake family's theft." He pointed to Lily. "This child will grow up knowing that her great-great-grandmother was murdered for the crime of loving someone. She will carry that knowledge her entire life." The defense says we can't prove what happened in 1968, but we have proven it, beyond any reasonable doubt. The only question now is whether you will acknowledge that proof. Victoria Spelling delivered her closing at 3:30 p.m. "Ladies and gentlemen, this case is built on emotion, on tragedy, on events that occurred before most of you were born. The plaintiff wants you to feel sympathy for Catherine Price, and you should. Her death was a tragedy, but sympathy is not evidence. Tragedy is not proof. The documents presented have been damaged. The witnesses are elderly, their memories potentially unreliable. The financial calculations are speculative. We ask you to set aside your emotions and consider only what has been actually proven in this courtroom." The jury retired to deliberate at 4:15 p.m. Marcus sat in the hallway with his family waiting for a verdict that would determine their future. "How long do you think they'll take?" Rodriguez asked. "Could be hours, could be days." "Could be minutes," Eleanor said quietly. "When the truth is this clear, decent people don't need long to recognize it." At 5:47 p.m., barely 90 minutes after retiring, the jury sent word. They had reached a verdict. The courtroom filled faster than Marcus thought possible. Word had spread. Everyone wanted to witness history. Judge Thompson addressed the jury foreman at 6:02 p.m. "Have you reached a verdict?" "We have, Your Honor." "On the claim of inheritance fraud, how do you find?" "We find for the plaintiff." "On the claim of fraudulent concealment of marriage, we find for the plaintiff." "On the claim of wrongful appropriation of estate assets, we find for the plaintiff." "And what damages do you award?" The foreman looked at Marcus with something like reverence. "We award the plaintiff $247 million in compensatory damages, and we recommend that the court consider additional punitive damages for the egregious nature of the fraud." The courtroom exploded. Reporters rushed for the exits. Cameras flashed. Voices shouted questions. Marcus sat motionless, the number echoing in his mind. $247 million. More money than he could comprehend. More than William had ever hoped to recover. Lily climbed into his lap. "Did we win, Daddy?" We won, baby girl. We won. Catherine says thank you. She says she can rest now. The weeks following the verdict transformed Marcus Cole from a homeless veteran into one of the most recognized names in America. Every news network wanted interviews. Every magazine wanted profiles. Every publisher wanted book deals. He turned them all down except one. At 10 a.m. on a Thursday, 3 weeks after the verdict, Marcus sat across from Maria Santos, the most respected journalist in investigative reporting. Mr. Cole, what do you plan to do with $247 million? First, I'm establishing the Catherine Price Ashford Foundation. Half of everything goes into a trust that will fund legal assistance for families whose inheritances have been stolen scholarships for first-generation college students and support services for homeless veterans. That's over $100 million in charitable giving. Catherine would have wanted it that way. She spent her life fighting for people who couldn't fight for themselves. The best way to honor her is to continue that fight. And the other half, security for my daughter, education, a home that no one can take away from us, and resources to keep investigating the other families the Drakes destroyed. Maria leaned forward. Other families. The Drakes didn't just steal from us. William documented dozens of families who lost everything to their schemes. We're going to find them, we're going to tell their stories, and we're going to help them get justice too. Rodriguez, Chen, and Williams had made their decisions by the end of the month. We're in, Rodriguez announced at dinner on a Friday evening. All three of us, full-time. The Catherine Price Foundation needs a security division, and we're it. You don't have to do this, Marcus said. The foundation can hire professional staff. Professional staff didn't serve 3 tours with you in Afghanistan. Professional staff didn't defend this house when Victor Drake tried to burn it down. We're not just employees, Cole. We're family. Chen nodded. Besides, this work matters. Helping families fight back against people who think they can take whatever they want. That's what we signed up for when we joined the Corps. Semper Fi, Williams added. Semper Fi, Marcus agreed. Eleanor announced her own plans at 7:30 p.m. that same evening. I'm moving into the manor. Permanently. Someone needs to maintain Catherine's study, and I'm too old to keep walking back and forth between houses. Eleanor, this is your home. No, Marcus. My home has always been wherever Catherine's memory lives. For 60 years, that was the cottage where I could watch over the manor. Now it's inside these walls with you and Lily. She looked at Lily with the particular tenderness of someone who sees the future clearly. Besides, that girl needs someone to teach her about her gift. Catherine gave me enough glimpses over the years that I understand what Lily is experiencing. She shouldn't have to figure it out alone. The foundation officially launched on March 15th, exactly 60 years and 2 months after Catherine Price was murdered. Marcus stood before a crowd of 300 people gathered on the manor grounds. We are here today to honor a woman who was killed for the crime of loving someone. Catherine Price Ashford was 28 years old when she died. She left behind a husband who spent the rest of his life fighting for justice. She left behind a son who never knew her name, and she left behind a legacy that refused to die no matter how hard her killers tried to bury it. He looked out at the faces before him. Journalists, politicians, celebrities, but also ordinary people. Families who had traveled from across the country because they recognized something in Catherine's story. The foundation we launched today will carry Catherine's name forward. We will fight for families whose histories have been stolen. We will support veterans who served their country and found themselves abandoned. We will fund education for children who have been told they don't deserve opportunities. But more than anything, we will tell the truth. We will shine light into the dark places where injustice hides. And we will prove that love, real love, is stronger than any force that tries to destroy it. The applause was thunderous, but Marcus barely heard it. His eyes had found Lily in the front row sitting between Eleanor and Rodriguez. His daughter was smiling with the particular brightness of a child who knows she is exactly where she belongs. The first anniversary of William Ashford's death fell on a rainy Tuesday in December. Marcus stood at his great-uncle's grave as dawn broke over the Virginia hills. Catherine's headstone stood beside William's finally united after 60 years apart. We did it, Marcus said quietly. Everything you worked for, everything you sacrificed, it meant something. The wind stirred the magnolia branches overhead. For a moment, Marcus could almost hear Catherine's laughter mingled with William's deeper voice. Lily's doing well, he continued. Eleanor is teaching her about the gift. She's learning to control when she sees things and when she doesn't. She's going to be remarkable. He placed a single flower on each grave. The foundation helped 47 families this year, recovered over $30 million in stolen assets. Sent 12 kids to college who couldn't have afforded it otherwise. It's a start. Lily appeared beside him, taking his hand without speaking. Catherine says they're proud of you, she said softly. Both of them. They say the family is whole now. Is there anything else they want to tell me? Lily closed her eyes for a moment. William says to remember that the real treasure was never the money. It was the truth. The money is just tools. The truth is what matters. And Catherine, she says thank you for giving her son's son the life she always wanted for him. She says to love your daughter every single day because you never know which day will be your last together. Marcus knelt and pulled Lily close. I love you, baby girl, every single day. I know, Daddy. Catherine knows too. She says that's why she chose us. Chose us for what? To carry the story forward, to make sure no one ever forgets. On the second anniversary of his arrival in Hartwell, Marcus stood in Catherine's study surrounded by the life he had built. The manor was fully restored now, every room alive with purpose. The foundation offices occupied the east wing. The family lived in the west. And Catherine's study remained exactly as William had preserved it, a sanctuary of memory at the heart of everything. Lily was 11 years old, growing into the remarkable person Eleanor had predicted. Her gift had strengthened with time, but she had learned to walk between worlds without losing herself in either. Rodriguez had married a local woman who worked at the foundation. Chen was engaged to Agent Reyes, who had resigned from the FBI to run the foundation's investigative division. Williams had become the most sought-after security consultant in Virginia, and Marcus had found something he never expected to find again. Her name was Grace Thompson, Judge Thompson's daughter, a civil rights attorney who had attended the trial and been changed by what she witnessed. They had been dating for 6 months. She wore Catherine's engagement ring. Are you happy, Daddy? Lily asked on that anniversary morning. I am, baby girl. For the first time in a very long time, I am. Catherine says that's what she always wanted, for her family to be happy. She says that's why she fought so hard and why William waited so long. Not for revenge, for this, for exactly this moment. Sanem. Marcus looked around the room that held 60 years of love and loss and hope. Tell her we're going to take care of it. Everything she built, everything William preserved, we're going to carry it forward. She knows. She says she's going to rest now. Really rest. She says she doesn't need to watch over us anymore because we're watching over each other. Is she leaving? Lily shook her head with a gentle smile. She's not leaving. She's just not worrying anymore. There's a difference. That evening, the entire family gathered for dinner. Rodriguez and his wife, Chen and Maria Reyes, Williams and his girlfriend, Eleanor at the head of the table she had watched over for 6 decades, Grace beside Marcus, already part of them and in every way that mattered, and Lily sitting in the chair that had once belonged to Catherine, carrying the future in her young hands. A toast, Rodriguez said, raising his glass. To the Cole family, to the Ashford legacy, to Catherine Price, who loved without fear, and to William Ashford, who waited without hope but never stopped fighting. To family, Marcus added. The one we're born into and the one we build. They drank together as darkness fell and stars appeared. Through the windows Catherine had once looked through, dreaming of a world where her love would be accepted. That world had finally arrived. Lily saw Catherine one final time that night. Not in a dream, but in waking vision, standing beneath the magnolia tree where she used to read. Beside her stood William Young again the way he had been on their wedding night. They were holding hands. They were smiling. And they were looking at the manor with the satisfaction of people who had accomplished something that outlasted death. Catherine raised her free hand in a gesture of farewell. William nodded once with the quiet pride of a soldier whose mission was complete. Then they turned away, walking into a light that grew brighter until Lily had to close her eyes. When she opened them again, the tree stood empty. But she could still feel them. Would always feel them. Part of the land and the house and the blood that ran through her veins. She walked back inside where her father waited. They're at peace, she said simply. Marcus pulled her close. Good. They earned it. Through the windows, the manor glowed with warmth and light, and the sound of family gathered together. In the cemetery at the edge of the property, 2 headstones stood side by side. Catherine Price Ashford, beloved wife and mother. William Ashford, beloved husband and father. Their love had survived murder and lies and 60 years of separation. Their truth had survived fire and theft and every attempt to destroy it. And their legacy lived on in every child the foundation helped, every family reunited with their history, every act of courage inspired by their story. Some loves are too powerful to die. Some truths are too important to stay buried. And some families refuse to be erased no matter how hard the world tries to forget them. The Ashford Price Cole family was proof, and their story was only beginning.